I started this challenge over a year ago, where I wanted to complete a Pokemon game using only my feet. Kind of. You see, something most people know is that you can connect the Pokeball Plus to the Let's Go games to level up your Pokemon. But what less people know is that it can also connect to Sword and Shield, where you can earn random rewards by walking and playing with your Pokemon as well. One of these rewards happens to be a rare candy, and you can probably see where I'm going with this. I'm going to be playing through Shield, but the only way I can level my Pokemon is to use rare candies they earn while in Pokeball Plus. And because that's not hard enough apparently, every Pokemon I get has to be level 100 before I can continue the playthrough. Speaking of which, with my backpack on, it's time to say bye to my mum and use my first Pokemon for this challenge. Out of the three choices, I decided to go with Grookey since it's who I originally chose. It also wouldn't really make a difference for reasons you'll find out soon enough. With the first member of my team acquired, I can't move from this spot now until he's earned enough candy to go from level 5 to 100. Or level 7 to 100 since it was an unavoidable battle with Hop before I could save the game and get Grookey into the Pokeball Plus. Now, it's time to go to the gym for a run and anything else that'll help me get some steps in to train up Grookey. Coming back after about 2 days and 21,319 steps, it's time to see how much progress I've made. 8. It earned 8 levels. This isn't going to be as easy as I was expecting, and the bar was already set pretty low. Assuming that each step is about 0.75 meters, that means I've walked 15.98 kilometers for those 8 levels. Let's get a counter going and see what the total is by the end of the video. But cracking back on with it, I put Grookey back in his ball and it was back out for some fresh air and exercise in order to hopefully earn at least double-digit levels this time. Okay, checking in again, and that's 42,901 steps. I mean, that's double the first check, but it doesn't seem like it's gonna get me to level 100. And I'd be right. Only 15 levels towards my goal after 2 days of training. Which means it's 23 levels, 64,220 steps, and 48.16 kilometers on the clock just for Grookey so far. You know what that means? Back out again, and spoiler, the next checks didn't go so well either, so I'll give you the highlights. The third check added 68,103 steps to the total and earned 20 rare candies, with the fourth check adding 71,843 steps to the total and earning 21 candies. It was at this point that I was trying to maximize the results for each check. I'd already been doing this by playing with the Pokemon more when I was getting my steps in. But I also noticed that there were bonuses for working hard and helping in Pokemon Go. So I reluctantly dusted off my account and loaded up the app so I could connect the Pokeball Plus to the game and earn extra rewards. The differences made after a particularly busy period and only 23,689 steps added meant that I earned 12 rare candies. That's more than my first check, but not by much. And that could mainly be down to better luck on the reward rolls, if I'm being honest. But with the total number of steps so far at 227,855, 170.89 kilometers covered, and 76 out of 95 levels required to get Grookey to the max level, it was time to go for one last push towards the goal of starting the game. I just realised I haven't even met up with the professor yet. Coming back this time, I was in high hopes because I put in a fair amount of work and I was feeling lucky. And that optimism was justified since I put in 61,158 steps and then myself, or Grookey technically, 18 rare candies, finally bringing Grookey up a satisfying 94 levels to level 100. Now I know with the 2 levels from Hop, it's not super in the spirit of training a Pokemon only to level 100 by steps alone. But don't you worry, because I don't quite hate myself enough yet, and we're gonna change this. Since the starter can't be shiny, I went on a hunt for an alternate starter in Scarlet and Violet, since next to your house in Cabo Poco, you can find a Pokemon with possibly the most iconic shiny in the whole series, Magikarp. And at level 3 no less. Meaning after I made myself a water sparkling power sandwich and found one, I could transfer into home, then into Shield, boxing Grookey, and getting onto leveling my actual starter from level 3 to 100 this time. With Magikarp safely in the Pokeball Plus, I took what I'd learned from training Grookey and focused on playing with as much as possible, as well as leaving a bit more time between each progress check. For the first check-in on Magikarp, I'd gotten 146,420 steps, netting me 37 rare candies and pushing me 109.81 kilometers down the road towards the goal. Not bad for the first one, and the second one wasn't too bad either. This time I had 109,748 steps and 29 rare candies, leaving the total at 66 levels for the 192.12 kilometers covered so far. I could see the starting line in the distance, so just like with Grookey, I gave it one last big push, adding 162,972 steps, which is the most I've done with a single check up to this point, and 44 rare candies, bringing the total to a nice round 100 levels in 531.1 kilometers. Raising my floppy friend up to the maximum level, having him grow a lot bigger and redder than he previously was. And finally, after 2 months, I could start playing the game and give my legs a bit of a rest. You'd think it would be plain sailing from here on out, but there was something that I was blissfully ignorant of that would come back to bite me. After attempting to flex and unnecessarily setting up on this poor little level 6 Squovit, Gyarados decided not to obey me. You see, this Gyarados, although technically being my Pokemon, wasn't caught on this file, so it would be treated as though I was traded it from someone else, meaning I now had a very powerful but very disobedient level 100 Gyarados to deal with. The effect of this meant that while battling, Gyarados has the chance to ignore me and just not attack. Or, if it does attack, it can hurt itself in confusion instead. Or, just to pull a Charizard from the anime, it might take a nap during the battle. Taking all this into account, it meant that I did more damage to myself than Hop did during our battle. Yet I still somehow came out the victor. After that revelation that things weren't going to be as easy as I anticipated, we collected the wishing stars that conveniently fell out the sky for us, and I cracked on with what most bad game reviewers would call the Dark Souls of Pokemon challenges. Making our way out of Postwick and into the wild area, I face what the game tries to tell me is a very strong looking Onix, but in a very toxic masculine mindset, and after a battle of attrition with myself, I proved that I have the better snake and we can all move on. Climbing the steps up to Motorstoke, the next logical step was to get myself a haircut and head straight into the nearest clothing store to match Gyarados and get myself looking all pretty? Important tasks done, I decided to head up to the stadium and register for the Pokemon League and assign myself the number of the glorious golden Magikarp I chose as my starter. With that done, I headed to the buddy drop-in to get my head down, except there was just one more thing standing in the way of me resting my poor little legs. Nothing too hard, thankfully, and after another battle with myself, it was over, with Marnie coming in to shoo them off, and I was finally able to get some much needed rest and relaxation. That night's sleep led to me coming up with a great idea. Since my biggest enemy was quite literally myself, in a weirdly accurate reflection of real life kind of way, I wanted to go back into the wild area and quickly grab some leftovers off the ground to give Gyarados so he can last just a little bit longer. And because you've got the issue, not me, I picked up some more clothes on my way back to the stadium while I was passing the store. While I was trying out new clothes, I also tried out my uniform briefly before Hopper wanted to head to Tearfield to take on the first gym challenge, which he quickly forgot about when he decided to batter me on the bridge instead. Gyarados was embracing the cozy vibes of the stream and taking a nap for most of the battle, up until she got down to 72 HP and decided enough was enough, wiping out Hop's whole team and opening the path for me to move ahead. There were a few more unfortunate trainers along the route and another inside the cave that wanted to test themselves against my whole team, the whole being Gyarados. She didn't even bat an eye at them and we breezed through the area until we met Bede in the Galar mine. He'd ended up taking me by surprise by sending out Solosis and having it use Endeavour that brought me right the way down to 36 HP, forcing me to use my first potion of the challenge, and repaying him in kind with a swift defeat for even making me think about adding one to the Whiteout counter, because Pokemon don't die and this isn't a Nuzlocke. Leaving the mine and Bede behind, I met Milo, the Tearfield gym leader, followed not too long after by Sonia, who was looking at some geoglyphs and for some reason gave me his lead card along with some ominous revives as a gift. This is my video. She's not allowed to do the foreshadowing. That's my hobby? Hoping this wasn't a sign of things to come, I charged head first into the gym to wear my first badge. where the challenge was to count some sheep and avoid falling asleep. Whatever, with that challenge successfully completed, it was onto the stadium. Oh, that was fast. One badge down, I guess. We all know what happens in these games at this point, and by that I mean not much. So we're just going to get straight onto the next gym in Horbury, only taking a brief break to stop these guys stealing the bike from this man. Only to have him give it to me instead. I don't need logic, I just need this bike. Moving on. Not for long though, since, like always, Hop was waiting to challenge me to another battle. In some stroke of luck, the perfect set of circumstances ended up falling into place for Hop of all people being the cause of my first Whiteout. But, not to worry, after healing up the Pokemon Center, I wasted no time in teaching that lightning doesn't strike twice and made my way to the seaside town, where I'd have to tell the gym leader that her shift wasn't over before taking on her challenge. This one had me doing more plumbing than I've ever seen in a Mario game, before I got the chance to test my water team against Ness's. Similar to Milo, this wasn't much of an issue outside of it taking me so long to take down a Dreadnought that it ran out of Dynamax turns, and once it was back to normal size, it was pretty much all over. League requiring her to hand over the gym badge, leaving me just enough time to have dinner with a strangely dressed man I don't know, and fully fueled up after that, I was ready to traverse the Galar sequel. Bede was waiting by the entrance to meet me, but this time he didn't get nearly as close to beating me, swiftly asserting my dominance and delving further into the mine. Towards the exit, I'd meet some more goons, with Hop not too far behind me. We both decided to take them on, and after resisting the urge to throw the battle and attack Hop like the game has taught me to do up to this point, they run off, leaving us to chase after them, where they led us to Kabu, the Motorstoke gym leader. Which reminds me, it's time to take on the next challenge. Leaving the mine and flying back to Motorstoke, it's time to take on the fire gym. Up to now, I was completely convinced I'd have to catch a Pokemon to progress, but thanks to my chat, I was informed that the Pokemon respawn, so I could keep knocking them out until I had enough points collected to face Kabu. This saved me a ton of time, like literally weeks of my life reclaimed because of this one message. As I was getting ready to walk down the tunnel, I was pleasantly surprised to find Kabu standing next to me, and we both walked onto the pitch together to have our battle. I may still have the disobedience disadvantage, but for the first time in 3 gyms, I have a type advantage. Not that it would help much since I'd take out this whole team easily enough, but like Nessa, his center score to run out of Dynamax turns before being taken out by Waterfall and earning me my 3rd badge. Being done with the first part of the game, me and Hop ran towards a wild area, this time heading north to Hammerlock, where your issue with the impulse control kicked in again, and I had to buy more totally unnecessary clothing to complete this run. Looking better than ever though, if I do say so myself. I had to meet up with Raihan in front of the vault, where Sonia was waiting to do some more foreshadowing. And after last time, I'm not sure I want to talk to her anymore, just in case what she says comes true. Regardless, I nod along and let her finish telling the story before trekking over to Route 6, taking on some Team Yell goons that were bullying a Silicobra for some reason. Then I arrive at Still On Side, where Hop is obviously waiting to battle me again because it's been more than 5 minutes. And with an unusually obedient Gyarados, he's defeated and I can make my way to the 4th gym. A quick game of Pachinko and a vomit bag later, the trial was completed and Alistair was next up to face a red menace that is my Gyarados. This was the battle I decided to Dynamax for the first time because I realised something. Look how good this shiny Gyarados looks with the red glow and matching Cloud Ground. I still wanted to prove I could take down this G-Max Gengar without it though, so I waited it early just to prove that I wouldn't need it, which ended up being true and earning me my 4th badge. After leaving the gym, I was dragged up to the mural almost immediately by Sonia, where we found Bede, who wanted to battle. Before losing again, showing his true colours by ironically knocking down the mural, revealing the original statues. This little stunt got him disqualified from the league, but I don't care. I have a challenge to beat. So I check my next destination and head towards it to take on the 5th gym in Ballonley. Marnie's in the lobby of the gym, just having beaten Opal and obtaining their own badge, so now it's my turn to do the same. Taking on a trial, which is just a quiz with extra steps. I cleared it easily, having done this so many times while completing my living decks. Exiting stage right and entering the field to take on Opal, My luck must be improving because Gyarados, although still disobeying occasionally, hit most of its attacks. This had me curious, so I went and did some research, and apparently the closer your obedience level is to the Pokemon's actual level, the less likely it is to disobey you. Basically, the further I get into this challenge, the easier it gets. With that information and my 5th badge in hand, I took it upon myself to guide a frail old lady back to Hammerlock where she'd spot Bead and form an unhealthy obsession with him. Not my problem. I'm laser focused on my goal at this point, so it's on to Route 7. We know the drill at this point. Hop's waiting for me on the bridge, and after getting multiple different effects, I still pulled out the win, solved an ancient maze, and found my way to Seychester. Conveniently, the home of the 6th gym. Hop couldn't wait to get another loss under his belt, so he beat me to the gym and was just on his way out after being humiliated by what I assume was everyone in there. I had to prove that not everyone from Postwick is as useless as him, so I suited up in possibly the most inappropriate clothing for a blizzard, while being given a device that vibrates the closer I get to a hole. You know what? I'm not going there. Finish that one on your own. Eventually I finish and find myself face to face with Melanie, ready to claim the badge that is rightfully mine. I'd have to win this one though. The moment she sent out Ice Cube, I got bad roll after bad roll after bad roll, losing most of my health, being frozen, using a full heal to unfreeze myself, then immediately getting refrozen, using a hyper potion, getting frozen again, thawing out, getting knocked into the red, healing again, hit back into the red, using my last hyper potion, and finally landing a crunch after it ran out of freeze dry PP. Melanie then sent out a race Lapras and we both Dynamaxed. For basically no reason, because those turns were wasted before I eventually landed the crunch that won me the badge and the longest battle I've had so far. That was an ordeal, so I'm gonna need to relax. Me, Hop and Sonia went for a meal, and for obvious reasons only to Hop, he wanted another battle afterwards. To prove himself, I think? Seeming like nothing compared to Melanie, it was over in seconds and it was on to Route 9. After a quick detour to restyle myself of course, I ran into everyone's favourite trouble-prone scientist who was being harassed by Team Yell yet again. So I had to save him for the last time so he could give me an upgrade he developed for a bike that he gave away ages ago. Luckily enough for me, this upgrade means that I can now cross water like I'm Bike Jesus. Which also conveniently opens up the route to Spikemuth, where the gate has been dropped and no one can get in. Unless you know someone who lives there, and they can tell you about a secret side entrance. Oh, like Marnie. And all she wants in exchange for this useful information is a battle? She is maybe the most reasonable character in this game. Unfortunately, I forgot this battle was coming, so I also forgot to heal, and it resulted in my second loss of this challenge. Back at it for round 2 though. Morpeko almost does the same again, so I heal just to play it safe, only to get paralysed. Luckily, my moves start landing more consistently and I managed to squeeze out a win against what I'd say is the second hardest battle I've had so far. Sorry Hop. As promised, Marnie upholds her side of the bargain and lets me into Spikemuth. Sadly for me, I found out that I can't enter the Spikemuth gym unless I have 2 Pokemon on my team. Now, I do have 2 level 100 Pokemon, but since I consider Gyarados my starter and not Grookey, I ruled out using them during this whole challenge. What this also means is that I have to go out and catch another Pokemon to add to my team in order to continue. After considering my options, I landed on catching a Rhydon from the wild area for my team. My logic behind this was that Rhydon would be a higher level from the wild area, meaning I'd have to earn less levels overall. It would give me more type coverage and a resistance to electric types, which Gyarados is 4 times weak to, along with a weather resistance to sandstorms if I needed it. So that's what I did. With a level 41 Rhydon in a Pokeball in game, and transferring it into the Pokeball in real life, I went out once again to stretch my legs and add more steps to the total. The most steps I've done so far in one go, in fact. 200,495 steps covering 150.37 kilometers and earning me 48 rare candies, leaving me only 11 away from that magic number I need to bring Rhydon up to max level. Based on my previous checks, this should only take me a couple days to do. That would be if it wasn't for the distraction of Scarlet and Violet's Teal Mask DLC releasing during this time, I did manage to squeeze in one check before starting the hunt for my teal mask team though, totaling 98,591 more steps, 73.94 kilometers down the path towards my goal, and 26 rare candies for Rhydon to chow down on. If only that's how training worked in real life. With this little roadblock out the way, I could finally take on the 7th gym and learn why it was so important for me to have 2 Pokemon on my team. Before I move on, yes, this Rhydon will obey everything I say, which would make this challenge a whole lot easier, so I'm going to avoid using it where possible. Making my way through the streets of Spikemouth, it turns out there are unavoidable double battles that require me to use Rhydon. Oh, sorry, did I say battles? I meant battle. A single double battle that had me putting in almost 300,000 steps to progress the story. Complaining aside, because realistically this is all self-imposed. Piers was putting on the first man concert and I just crashed it so I could challenge him to a gym battle. A relatively uneventful battle occurred, involving some more of Gyarados getting bored and taking naps before finally knocking out every member of his team and leaving me with one last badge to collect. That being the Dragon Badge from Raihan back in Hammerlock. So, without a second thought, I started making my way over there, briefly getting stopped by Hop, but not to battle this time, just letting us know that Leon is dealing with all of the exciting story elements so we don't have to. How thoughtful of him. That gave me the chance to hop in a flying taxi, landing in front of the gym, and then being brought to the vault to take on his gym trial. Which actually made me feel a little bit better since his trial revolved around all the battles. So it's justified Rhydon's place on the team just that a little bit more than before. These trainers wouldn't be an issue given Rhydon, being a Pokemon that I call myself, would obey every word I said, slowly teaching Gyarados how a Pokemon in my team should behave. With those battles out the way, it was down to me and Raihan facing off for the final badge that I've been looking forward to for so long. He'd start the battle off by setting up a sandstorm, and that's about it. Rhydon resisted it, Gyarados couldn't care less, leaving me to spam Waterfall and Earthquake, taking out G-Max Duraludon in one hit, and opening up the final stretch of the game to me. Also, by collecting all the badges, I'd unlocked easy mode because that also allows Pokemon of all levels to obey me. Because of this, I just kinda zoned out and entered autopilot, so I'll just give you the highlights. I traded Rhydon with myself while holding Protector to evolve it into Rhyperior, took the train to Route 10, this game's Victory Road that just consists of a few trainers that were more speed bumps than they were roadblocks, cresting over the hill and entering Winden, a final stop on this journey. Without stopping, I beelined to Winden Stadium to register for the tournament, being thrown straight into a battle with Marnie, sweeping a team with Gyarados, doing the exact same thing to Hop a few minutes later, before heading back to the hotel to meet up with Leon and grab a bite to eat. Short story cut even shorter, Leon's late, so me, Hop and Piers for some reason would decide to go looking for him. Walking outside, the actual evil team starts being a bit less subtle with all of the evil they're doing. We get a hand from Marnie and Team Yell to find the guy with the key with the place we need to go to find Leon. A quick round of hide and seek later, he gets bored being beaten by kids, so he just hands the key over to us. Can't blame him honestly. That key lets us jump the monorail to Rose Tower where we'd enter, take on a short gauntlet of trainers before reaching the top, defeating Oleana and bringing Leon back with us. That was a lot to condense down, but unfortunately we're not quite done yet. Waking up the next day, we're led to the stadium by the same people who attacked us yesterday, and Bede devised a plan to interrupt the tournament and challenge me to a battle for his honour. One clean sweep by Gyarados later, I prove him wrong and the tournament can proceed as normal, with me rising through the bracket by winning against Nessa, Alistair and Raihan, earning my place in the final against Leon to challenge him for his position as the Galar champion. But it wouldn't be that easy. The evil team ramp up the evil, interrupting the battle and forcing me and Hop to go looking for the fabled sword and shield in the slumbering world. After finding my way to the centre of the forest, we spot some big old puppers and pick up what we can only assume are the items we came here looking for. And time is of the essence, so after landing back in Hammerlock to stop the darkest day and Chairman Rosa's plan, we take the convenient lift down to where he is and stop him the only way we know how, with a Pokemon battle. It's another sweep on the record for Gyarados and a win for me that leads to Rose sending us upstairs to face the threat that he's just released into the Galar region, Eternatus. Leon fails to catch it, so I have to step in and assert my dominance once again by taking it out in one hit. Sort of. This just sends it into phase 2 where it turns into a Final Fantasy boss and we have to call in our special summons, those being the box legendaries, in order to defeat it. And with all our powers combined, we chipped down its massive health pool to nothing, allowing me to really prove how much better I am than Leon by succeeding where he failed and catching it in a Pokeball. Wait, I was just forced to catch Eternatus, which also means before I can finish the game I have to raise it to level 100. Well, I've got no choice. This challenge won't end and keeps finding ways to test my patience, so I took this world-ending beast away in the Pokeball Plus, and I've got to earn 40 more rare candies before I can face Leon for his title and embrace a sweet release of the credits. Given my experience so far, I know exactly what had to be done, so I took myself away for a while, making sure to keep this doomsday threat in my pocket wherever I went and playing with it at every opportunity before coming back with my fingers crossed and praying to every form of higher power that this will be the last check I'd have to make. That effort would end up paying off with another personal best, 201,717 steps added in one check. And that's still 151.28 kilometers. Earning me 45 rare candies, leaving 5 over as a treat for later. After feeding fruits of my labour to Eternatus, bringing him up to level with the rest of my team, it's on to the last hurdle, that being Leon, who, along with the crowd, have been patiently waiting for me to arrive. I guess I did save them from almost certain destruction, so that's kind of the least I could do. Leon acknowledges that I brought the potential disaster on the team, but regardless, I could feel the anticipation for finally finishing the challenge once and for all. Leon sends out Aegislash, I send out Gyarados, shining and ready to show the stadium what I can do. Aegislash protects itself from the first hit and manages to take a crunch and protects again before eventually falling. Swapping out to Eternatus to give it a brief chance to shine before the challenge is over, Leon matches with his own dragon, Dragapult. Eterna Beam does its job and takes it out in one hit, leaving me to switch back into Gyarados while it recharges. Haxorus is next, so I set up a couple turns with Dragon Dance to try and get some single hit knockouts before he lands a lucky critical hit that knocks me into the yellow, forcing me to go for Thrash to take it out. Staying in to make the most of my setup, he sends out Cinderace, Gyarados thrashes again, sealing his fate and leaving her confused from the fatigue. Given that Gyarados has taken enough damage from confusion through this whole run, I choose to swap into Viperia this time, which maybe wasn't my best choice since Seismitoad was next up. But after tanking a liquidation and retaliating with its own Earthquake, that didn't really make a difference, leaving Leon with one Pokemon left, his Charizard. And I wanted to make a spectacle for the crowd, so I swapped back into Gyarados, and we both activated our Dynamax bands, resulting in our two towering red dragons facing off to see if there was gonna be a new champion of the Galar region. Gyarados let off a single Max Geyser, and that was all it took, claiming victory for us, and even bringing in the clouds to literally rain on his parade as he accepted defeat. The moment I've been waiting for so long was finally here. As the screen turned black, the logo appeared, and the credits rolled. The challenge was over. Here's what I would say, but for anyone who's not new here, it's never that easy. There's still one more thing I have left to do. With my team immortalised on the home screen, I hit the A button and trekked back through the slumbering well to return the rusted shield to its resting place. Hop was back to his old ways, challenging me to another battle before we could move on. A quick humiliation later, and he'd hopefully learn never to try that again, and we'd do the least British thing by returning the stolen artifacts we'd found back to where we found them. The Galar royalty wouldn't be having any of this though, swiftly showing up with their unsettlingly floppy hair to take them back. I'd stopped Shieldbert easily enough, but Hop didn't stand a chance, losing the rusted sword to Swordwood. Great names. Wanting to get this retrieved artifact into the storage immediately, they ran off with Hop chasing not too far behind them. We met up with Sonia back at the lab and meet a mysterious new assistant. Probably nothing to worry about. She takes us into the back and brings us up to speed, telling us about power spots that have been spiking all around the Galar region. This would lead me to taking the victory lap around the Galar gyms, with Turfield being the first stop and bringing the unlikely trio of me, Hop and Piers back together for one last adventure. We'd face off against several rampaging Dynamax Pokemon throughout the region, taking them all out, with the only notable moments being that time my Gyarados recreated the Spider-Man meme, and my surprise when Hop Dynamax against Torkoal, because I never actually realised that that was a thing that could happen. Briefly returning to the lab again to check for more power spot spikes, where we'd find the Royal 2 waiting for us, so I took the chance to give Hop a lesson in how to not lose. And, shock horror, Sonia's new assistant was working for them the whole time. She handed over all of the wishing stars we collected, and after darting out the front door, we followed suit, quelling the last of the Dynamax Pokemon, putting B back in his place for good measure, and going back to where it all ended. That's how the saying goes, right? Back in the basement of the Hammerlock Stadium, Shiobert was forming a war with his entourage to stop us from reaching his brother on the roof. Why we couldn't land a flying taxi on the roof and skip all of this, I don't know. But if we can look past it for Lord of the Rings, then we can look past it now. His team hasn't changed much since the last battle, so skipping through that waste of time, we head up to find that Swordwood is being attacked by Zacian. Being the gooder than good people that we are, we step in, the others quickly step back, leaving me to handle Zacian. Zamazenta then follows my lead, appearing out of thin air to protect Hop, asserting its dominance, and forcing Zacian to leave after realising it's just made a show of itself. Hop apparently hasn't learned anything from this whole experience, just chasing after it because he still thinks he can fix its issues. Zamazenta is still here though, waiting patiently for me to... oh no. For me to catch it. Which, after a couple failed attempts... I do in a Pokeball as per usual. So, for one last time, I sent Zamazenta into the Pokeball Plus and went out to earn 30 more rare candies. I might have overdone this one though, having added 162,960 steps to the final total of 1,371,916 steps, covering a rough distance of 1,028.9 kilometers and earning a grand total of 377 levels overall. I wish I could describe just how good it felt to watch Zamazenta just keep dinging through these last 30 levels. But I couldn't sit here watching it forever, so after taking a moment just to let it sink in, it was time to head back to the Slumbering Well to see how Hop was getting on with Zacian. It didn't seem to be going too bad for once, until he tried catching without actually throwing a Pokeball. That's literally one of the first things we're taught and he still can't get it right. Anywho, that somehow worked, and all hyped up after this miracle, he challenged me to another battle, to no one's surprise. Taking the final few steps up to him, I readied myself with a plan in the back of my mind of how to execute the most satisfying victory I could think of. Not a particularly complicated one, but after noticing his double wasn't doing that much damage to Gyarados, I set up using Dragon Dance 6 times and swept his whole team, taking them all out with a single hit, including his newly caught legendary Pupper. Finally getting him to admit that I'm strong and that he will basically never beat me. Except that one time earlier that we will never mention ever again. Leon showed up, echoing the sentiment, and we ended this run, jogging out to the forest to live out the rest of our lives. This challenge was definitely a whole lot of Type 2 fun and took a massive amount of time and effort. But if you want to see me take on the DLC in the same way, then feel free to let me know by either liking or leaving a comment. And while you're down there, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe to see more of what I do. Also, if you're interested in seeing me do this or any other challenges live, you can head over to Twitch and follow me there. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!